Candice,
Yes.
Fortin. Great stuff.
So yeah, I was doing a lot of work this past year, working on the Bernie Sanders campaign as a volunteer. We all know how that goes. We don't have to go back on.
In New York, and you were in New York, so you were in like some of the thick of it.
Yeah, the thick of it. I testified against the Board of Elections, even with some of the voter issues that we were having. And coming off of that, I was looking for a pathway to stay involved with the election that would keep me engaged and something that felt really authentic. And for me, I was just going through some of the core issues and which candidate I could get behind and which party I can get behind to support that. So for me, it was reproductive rights. That's such a fundamental issue, I believe, in this election. I'm glad that Tim Kaine has finally started to discuss that. He brought that up in the last debate, and I'm happy that he went from being someone who was a little pro-life-ish and was having a bit of a voting in that direction to just taking a really, really strong stance and saying, I am pro-choice and we are going to uphold Roe versus Wade. I just want people to be able to understand the seriousness of that issue. Some of the legislation that the GOP locally and on a federal state level, and of course what Pence and Trump are talking about as well, is eradicating Roe versus Wade. They're introducing some ideas of legislation about jailing women if they commit abortion, that could create such a severe impact on our society. Statistically, about 1/3 of the female population in America have abortions. That's something that I don't believe a lot of people know. I believe they base a lot of that on the stigma. 1/3 of those women who have abortions are African American. So what you're doing is you're creating this systematic, a huge systematic oppression on women to indicate that they have to be jailed because they have an abortion. It's just the way that's going to affect society is obviously something that I don't think I could live in this country if that's something that happens. Now, to go back on that, the issues that I have most with the stigmas on reproductive health centers, on abortion clinics, is that it takes away people's access and education to other types of healthcare, not just abortion, but contraceptive healthcare, for sex education, for preventative healthcare, for prenatal healthcare, for the healthcare of the mothers. Texas took away about 50% of their abortion clinics. They ruled that in 2013 when they had stronger regulations. The increase of matricide that happened after that was incredible, and it did affect a lot of communities of color. This is something that I want people to be cognizant of when they go to the polls. Georgia, where you are, I know that there's a lot of, I hope that you guys will go blue at some point. I really hope that. I pray for you guys. I was in Atlanta this past summer, and I heard about the ruling with the Georgia Supreme Court to name a bridge after the Ku Klux Klan. Was I wrong about that? That happened. Right. So there's a lot to fight against, but I just want people to be very cognizant to know that there are a lot of local legislators who are running for office who are pretty adamant about keeping up this pro-life agenda, which isn't pro-life, actually. It can affect your life if you are lower income and you don't have the resources for prenatal care, for the care of the mother, or even preventative medicine, so that you don't get in a situation where you are not financially able to take care of your child. So the project that I'm working on is Vote Pro-Choice. I'm the community engagement lead. And my job is to identify the local candidates and all the states. We're the first nationwide voter guide to do this, where we focus on pro-choice candidates. So what you do is you go on pollvault.com/voteprochoice, and you enter in your zip code, and it'll give you a list of all the candidates who are either pro-choice or pro-life, and it can help you inform your decision when you go to the polls. So that's what we're working on right now. We're still building out our lists. We're definitely trying to identify more in Georgia. I've identified quite a few pro-life people in Georgia, but we are more people on the other side of the fence with that. And yeah, that's basically what our project is.
Great. You touched on a few different things that are really good. I just do want to go back to one thing you said about Tim Kaine, because that was one thing that I know was a huge,
Yeah.
When he was selected was because he did have this not so distant history of being, you know, a conservative Democrat and not as pro, you know, choice as we would like to see. And now it definitely seems like the right policy people have been sitting with him and talking with him, or he has evolved and come to the right conclusions. But we do need people who are willing to go on the record, whatever their personal, you know, because we all have our personal positions and thoughts about things. But when you are in a position to make decisions for the masses, we definitely need people who are going to think about the whole, particularly when we're talking about male legislators, right? Like this is an issue that this is, we're talking about reproductive choice. Like women effectively have that choice taken from them by male legislators who don't even think about what is possibly happening in our lives and in our world. And the second thing that I thought that was great that you brought up were the other, when you're closing, you know, abortion clinics, when you're closing Planned Parenthood centers, when you're closing these community health centers, you're denying access to poor women and in many cases women of color. I mean, you know, mammogram services and things like that, right? Like much needed services are being deprived, and so what are you like? Do you just like what are some of the factors you're using to determine who's pro-life versus pro-choice? Because like there are so many gradations within that spectrum.
Right. Well, we do. We have investigated a lot of lists that were already available online. We went through kids list on Now. Lady Justice Parts has identified a lot of the pro-life people in a really humorous way. There are quite a few, and we were able to actually bounce off of a lot of pro-life groups as well who have a lot of endorsements. For me personally, we do a project with volunteers where we have them literally go district to district and send a questionnaire asking 3 fundamental things. Do you believe that Roe versus Wade should be upheld? Do you believe that abortion should be a legal right for everyone? What are there any kind of exceptions for that rule? I think if you are pro-choice, there are no exceptions. It is your choice.
Right.
So things, you know, it has to be it does have to be a decisive thing at a certain point. And we just use that basic line of questioning to reach out to potential candidates and see if they're willing to identify themselves. You would be surprised. Like I've tried certain red states where people don't want to be identified as such, and it's just 2015. But they're pro-choice, but they're still afraid to be identified because of their election. So we have to be very careful about that as well. But at the same time, I think it is time to push this conversation further to make it not so much of a stigma where candidates realize that this is something that is of value. I mean, women are the majority of this country. If all women voted against Trump, we would be 100% blue in the entire, every single state. And it's something to be cognizant of. I mean, it affects all women. It either affects you as a woman, it either affects your mother or your friend.
Right.
Anyone. You know, there's so many different circumstances where Planned Parenthood, or at least the ideology of Planned Parenthood and having accessibility and having education is necessary. I can't imagine a single woman who wouldn't need these resources in one way or another, either to make an informed decision or to be able to have the legal protection to do so.
And I think that's an excellent point, because it's even if you personally don't foresee or don't believe it would be an issue, it's the fact that it's available, right? I mean, it's like the emergency room. You don't necessarily anticipate going to the emergency room. You don't plan on going there, but the fact that it's available to provide you needed care, you know, like it's there and it's amenable, you know, it's available to all. I also like what you were saying. We were talking about how like giving examples of like when talking about Pence in Indiana, right? You know, there are instances in the way Indiana, the state of Indiana, with you know Mike Pence as governor, has so repressed, you know, access to abortion, has even criminalized, and in many ways, even frustrated the process, even by mandating that women, you know, have basically funerals in some cases.
Insane.
It's this level of insanity, and you know, for people watching, this is not like, you know, you need to. Like I always tell you, I'm not going to tell you how to vote, but at the same time, we do need to pay attention to what's happening at the state and local level and how this is informing, you know, this national conversation, this national dialogue. Like you gave a perfect example with Texas as well. I mean, there's so many places where this is happening where we do have this denial of access occurring to fit particular agenda that's coming down the pipeline. And that is something that we do need to be committed to supporting. So even if you personally, don't feel like you have skin in the game, it is something to be aware of. And so how are you guys how are you organizing nationwide? I know you're contacting, like, what is the process? Like, how can people get in touch with you? Like, how are you organizing this effort as a community engagement specialist?
Right. So what volunteers do is that they literally will look up the candidate and look up their campaign office and give them a call. We try to find people who are locally based, because sometimes if they're super volunteers, they may want to meet the candidate. They may have a different idea about what this candidate's environment is. I have someone who's in rural Pennsylvania who understands how to have that conversation more than I would, or I get referred to someone in South Dakota, but they may have a better understanding of the climate there than I would, being a New Yorker who's just going to say what I want. So that's mainly where we're coming from. We're also taking initiatives to promote these candidates' campaigns. Oftentimes there does tend to be an alignment between people who are more progressively affiliated and the amount of resources they have and the amount of support they have. So we do encourage volunteering for the campaigns. We also put out there, if someone wants to host a meet and greet with a candidate or something like that, introduce conversations about reproductive rights. That's completely on the table. If someone wants to build content, make a PSA, that's completely great too. So we leave the door open for people, but fundamentally, in terms of getting the information, it really is a very super grassroots initiative of looking up the district, calling the campaign office, and seeing if they can just answer those 3 questions. And if they can do it, then we just put them in the vault. And if they want to further engage with being promoted, then we can help them with that too.
Okay. And how are you? Let's see how I word this. Like, how are you guys, how is it going with getting the word out about the program? Like, what can people who are watching, what can we do to help, spread the word, get more information out? And
Yeah, what you can do is take the pledge. It's on voteprochoice.us. Take the pledge, and there's multiple choices for ways to engage, like from creating content, recruiting people, hosting an event. That information will go directly to me. And I'll be able to get back to people and figure out where they can engage and where they can help out. If you're only able to do a couple of hours a week, well, cool. So you just, we'll give you this people to look up and investigate. And if that's what you can do, that's what you can do. So that's the first step to start. Right now we have a database of about 2 million people, which is great. We've had tons of pledges, but the more the merrier. I don't think there's any way to really stop this. I don't think it's just going to be an ongoing process. But we've entered so far, I think, about 5,000 candidates on pro-life and pro-choice, and there's thousands more to go. So if people in Georgia, are interested, I can give my email. It's Candice at voteprochoice.us, Candice at voteprochoice.us. Email me, let me know if you're interested, and I'll get you started right away. So
sweet.
Yeah.
Very awesome. So just anything else you think that folks need to know about this topic, about the organization, about your work in general?
Yeah, honestly, this is our first go around with this. We're the first nationwide voter guide that is focused on pro-choice. So, we're a startup, but we're dedicated to pushing this conversation forward. I would say just take the pledge, and you will be updated on events. We have a lot of organizing that's happening in New York, and a lot of groups that we're supporting. We have some things happening in Texas and California. So we're happy to, and if people want to be involved and know about how to support candidates, that's really the best way to do it, because we can keep you informed via email. We have a Facebook group as well, a community group where people can plug in. So if they're interested in any of that information, we can definitely provide it once they take the pledge.
Okay, great. I mean, definitely. I mean, getting people active, involved, engaged. This is one of the things I talk about all the time, especially, around issues, but also state and local level candidates. We talk so much about, the presidential election. We'll talk some about Congress, but those that is really important. But at the same time, a lot of these instances when we're talking about, particularly we're talking about the issue of choice, we're talking about threats to choice. It's happening at the state level with the way these different rulings and laws are being passed. I mean, also looking at judicial elections as well, because state level judges are making a lot of these decisions sometimes about the legitimacy of laws being passed. And it's crucial to have to look for people who actually understand the importance of and value of these issues. So this is a great project. Thank you.
I would say, even look at something like the school board, to be honest with you. I mean, like, will we have sex education anymore? Will we teach people, like, how to
right.
I mean, it can trickle down to that. I really believe, I'm a big believer, and I guess probably most people are, that, politics does affect the culture that you're in. So the minute that you're in a world where, women's bodies are being policed and they're told that they don't have a right, it just trickles down to this point that could be really dangerous, I think. So, I'm pretty on board for this. And I'm just hoping, again, not telling people who to vote for, but definitely hoping that Trump doesn't make it. Fundamentally. But there's a lot of other elections to focus on for sure. So
definitely. Definitely. So give me the website. Give us the website one more time.
Oh, sure. It's voteprochoice.us. Takes about 30 seconds. Just take the pledge, put in your email, and you'll hear back from us.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Candice. Yeah, that's good. I'll have to chop it up some more.
Yeah, definitely.
And talk some more, and then I'll look and see about some folks down this way.
Okay.
Probably some metro areas, folks, for sure. Outside the metro area, probably not.
Right.
But we'll definitely follow with you about Georgia specifically. And if anybody else out there is interested in, reproductive choice as a whole, take the pledge, go on the website, voteprochoice.us, take the pledge. It only takes about 30 seconds, Candice says. Check it out, because, I mean, it's definitely, we need to be building around these issues. We can't just leave it up to the people, that get elected to make sure it's done properly.
Yeah.
So awesome. So check it out. This website's up on the screen. Candice, thank you so much for, I know it was last minute, but I appreciate you hopping on and talking about this. This is really, we have 3 weeks left, people, to election day. And there are some folks out there that this may be one of the issues that you want to look at a little bit closely.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Let's talk some more. I'll follow up with you and let's talk some more.
Cool. Sounds good. All right.
Great. Have a good night. See, that's what I'm talking about, people. Like, I talk about this, I talk a lot. I know I talk about a lot of things, but seriously, that is, an upstart group that just decided, like, we're going to categorize people nationwide so that if reproductive choice, if that is an issue that you're interested in, this is where candidates across the country stand. And we focus so much on what's going on with the national election. And I'll get to the crap show in a minute. We focus so much on that. We forget that a lot of the legislation, a lot of the issues that affect our daily lives are happening at the state and local level. So I just had to bring Candice on because, I was sick a couple of days ago and we were supposed to chat. But so hopefully you guys will check that out, share the information with someone else.